There you go, mate. We're live. We're already live. Hang on. Let me just start with the obligatory. Oh, man.
I love it. Product placement.
Yeah. That's, no Tim Hortons plug this time, mate.
I don't know. Does my new Barclays card count as a product placement?
Possibly.
Yeah.
However, it is hockey season still, right? The playoffs are on, so a little shameless plug for the team. Go Habs Go, playing the Vegas Knights this tonight or this morning in your time.
Cha-ching.
So the only Canadian team left in the NHL playoffs.
What is going on with hockey? How is this possible? Y'all invented hockey.
Well, look, come on. Let's be honest here. That it doesn't matter which NHL team wins the Stanley Cup. 20 Canadians have won the Stanley Cup.
Oh, you mean because they're all Canadians on the teams?
Yeah, there's like 20 Canadians on every. There's 20 Canadians on every NHL team about, mate. So, well, it might be a bigger number, but anyway, the gist being.
Well, the NBA playoffs are going on too, but my team's out of it. But I keep forgetting to jump on and watch some of the other stuff. Although, you know what I watched last night? I didn't realize, surprise, it was on TV out by the pool. Are the Olympic trials, the U.S. Olympic trials. I'm so excited that the Olympics are nigh and that it looks like it's actually going to happen.
Yeah, it's supposed to be in Japan, isn't it, this year, the Olympics?
Yeah, it's going to be in Japan. Who's done a lot of preparation, evidently, as most countries do. Actually, I've heard that countries, they host the Olympics, they build all these great facilities and all that stuff, and then it ends up being a little bit of a blight, I guess, on the city, because now you got all this stuff, but there's not millions of people coming in to go to the event now. So anyway,
and they spend so much money, and they almost, depending on what type of city it is, when it was it the 2000 Olympics were in Sydney? No, it wouldn't even been that. Yeah. But so I was in Sydney in '98 when they were preparing. They're obviously when they found out that they'd won, and then I was visiting Sydney just when The Matrix came out. I think it would have been 1996, 97, 98, somewhere around there. And just seeing all the work that was being done in preparation for the Olympics. But there's a major city that, but the rerouting of the roads and all upgrading of stuff. But it's also, and you see some of the places where they really build brand new facilities end up turning into ghost towns. It's quite fascinating.
Right. Exactly.
But it was like when Australia, when we won the America's Cup. Oh, there's a stinger from way back. The first country in the world to win the America's Cup off of America, when we had the winged heel back in 1983 or whatever it was, and then they brought the cup to Australia, down to Fremantle, West Australia here. And Fremantle was just a dirty old port town. And knowing that the America's Cup was coming, they just revamped the whole city, and it was kind of like new facades all over the place. And this will be an interesting segue into conversation. And it was almost like they put a whole bunch of makeup on Fremantle, and they just said, let's make it look good. But until the culture of Fremantle changed, Fremantle never changed. It was just a fancier version of a dirty old port town.
Yeah, you can't put lipstick on a pig, as they say.
Yeah, mutton dressed up as lamb, as it were. So it was fascinating to see how obviously the investment in that to make it look better for all these people about to arrive. But it took a long time for them to shift the actual culture of Fremantle. Although going there now, it's a very upmarket, cool place to go hang out, lots of cafes, and it's kind of like our own mini New Orleans.
It's okay, Dave, let's get this straight. It's Nawlis. Nawlis. Yeah.
Going down to Nolans.
Yeah.
Yeah, so interesting.
All right, so I'm sorry I'm not big timing you, but I'm looking for a quote. And not only was I late getting on here, I have to get off a little early.
That's fine.
5:30-ish. Okay. So my question for you is, I'm trying to find this quote. What is your definition of company culture?
Company culture. Mine is very simple, surprisingly, which is just how we think and feel around here.
Okay. How we think and feel around here. I like it.
Yeah.
And so talk about that a little bit. Like what do you mean?
Well, to me, so culture, I mean, like there's a whole bunch of like it can be formal or informally led. Every company has a culture, right? Whether it's by default or by design, whether it's led by the people or led by the leadership team or a combination thereof is thing. But to me, it's the behaviors that we accept, not the ones we expect. It's the, when you think about that, but it all ultimately culminates in how we think and feel around here, because how I think determines how I act. So the behaviors that are showing around there comes from how we think and feel. So my thoughts and emotions drive my behavior. And that to me is, when we think about company culture, is how we think and feel around here. It's our half of the heart. So when we speak that love to the market goes, oh, I love the way that you guys just love your work and love the way you guys do. And they respond in kind, which is brand. And then all of a sudden everyone falls in love with why we do what we do. Right. So,
yeah.
So to me, culture is how we think and feel, and brand is how the market or the consumer thinks and feels. And that's all made up of a whole bunch of stuff behind the scenes. But to me, like that's all what drives behavior. And culture is basically, in the end, is the way we all behave.
Right.
What drives us to behave the way that we do.
So, you want to hear mine?
Sure.
Okay. The prevailing values, beliefs, behaviors, and language that permeates and defines an organization and the actions they produce. So I see actions as a trailing indicator, not a leading indicator, right? So, I go on to say, by the way, this is out of a book I'm working on, follow up to Company of Owners, called Architecting a Company of Owners.
Yep.
How do you know what the people at your company believe and feel? Look at their actions.
Correct.
Okay. So if people don't speak up in meetings, we have high turnover. People rarely recruit for us. We have silos, or worse yet, war camps. We have low engagement. People live for the weekend. Those are behaviors that are being produced by the beliefs and the language and all of that stuff, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So how we think and feel will determine all that. Yeah,
absolutely. So to me, it's a lot simpler than people try to make it. If people aren't speaking up in meetings, there's a good chance that it may be that either the meetings aren't interesting, they're bored, they're afraid. There's some kind of driving factor around all that stuff. So, yeah, but culture has a lot of different definitions, but I think it's the air you breathe when you walk into somewhere.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, and once again, as we've discussed, company culture is not just it's almost like I don't say it's a misnomer, but it's not even just company culture anymore. It's just culture, right? It's just, and this is why, once again, like, people don't wake up, do all the bits and pieces, then go to work at 9 o'clock in the morning or 8:30 in the morning, turn on their culture, do all this stuff during the day, at 5 p.m. turn off their culture and go home and do their whole lives.
Right.
It's this integrated work-life integration. We just got someone jumping on there. Jimmy Mitchell's jumped on. G'day, Jimmy. How are you, mate? Jimmy's from My Online Guy, phenomenal social media SEO organization down here in Australia.
Nice.
Yeah, the culture is, it extends beyond that. So, people are getting up in the morning, they're doing emails, and they're doing stuff on the train on the way in, or the bus on the way in, or wherever they're commuting in, they're working at home at hours, especially with all this distributed working coming up, the blended work. is there one thing I was like, what's the future of company culture? What's the next evolution of company culture? Talk about evolution at work. What's the next evolution of company culture? Is it like, is it an antiquated term now? Or is it we just need to understand it at a much deeper or richer level because it permeates beyond the company? Or is the company a part of our life? I guess these are things that jump into my mind.
So I don't think I kind of fished around about heading this direction last time, but I don't think we got into it. But I had a conversation with a buddy of mine who is a futurist and really big into AI, AR. The singularity is inevitable. It's not even a conversation anymore of if this is going to occur. I may have said last time, but he said within, I don't know, 5 years, 10 years, you'll be able to buy the computing power of the human brain for $1,000. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, that's mind blowing.
Well, but apparently this thing here is the $1,000 device here has got more technology in it than what they faked the lunar landing with. I mean, they put man on the moon with.
So we're worried about cyborgs, but we are cyborgs, right?
Yeah.
We've got this thing. Get it in the camera there. We've got this little cyborg device that I can look up anything. I can ask the great God in the sky, Google, and it'll tell me. Sometimes it's accurate and sometimes not, but it's getting better and better. And he was saying, I said, so I asked him this compelling question because I said, hey, Dave Clare, buddy of mine and I, we launched this thing, Global Company Culture Association, and we're talking about, getting it ramped up after we kind of stalled a little bit during COVID and some other factors. And I said, but I've been thinking with the shape of work coming, is it even is it outdated? Like you said, Dave, is it a thing, right? That's going to have to shift and morph. And I said, what do you think is the number one important thing for people to know about the future of work, or what do they need to prepare for? And you want to know what he said?
Yeah.
Being subservient.
Being subservient.
I was like, what? He said, Daren, we're sitting in this restaurant right now. There will be, in the not too distant future, a machine that will be saying, hey, you need to go bust this table now, or their drink is halfway gone, or that you'll be, if you're a server in a restaurant, for example, you'll actually be being directed by a machine that will be measuring the metrics. He said what's going to happen is we're going to get our robot. We're going to love it at home. It's going to spend a lot of money for it. It's going to be awesome and know a lot of things, be very smart. And then we're going to get the next model. And then the next model is going to be even better. I mean, it's just going to blow us away of what the capabilities are and all that stuff. And he said that's just going to get better and better. But at some point, we become not slaves to, but we kind of become, secondary to the machines. And as Elon Musk says, either they are benevolent or, God bless us all, they're not, right?
Right.
So, okay, that's all great. Sounds pie in the sky. I'm assuming
very iRobot.
Yeah, it is iRobot, but a lot of that sci-fi stuff is very predictive of the future.
Yep.
I had a really smart guy to tell me one time, you want to know the future, read science fiction. That's what's going to happen, right?
Come on, in 1960, Captain James T. Kirk had a flip phone.
Right. Yeah.
And we all laughed, and they were all doing video calls in these movies way back in the days, and like we laughed. And here we are doing things like this for free online live.
Yeah.
Yes. Art imitating life, or life imitating art. But yeah, it's nothing is if it's already been imagined by someone in sci-fi or a movie or something like that, it would not surprise me to see it in reality. We've seen, how many movies have we seen with autonomous vehicles way back, going way, way, way back?
Yeah, and I mean, if you want to, scare yourself to death, read a book called Daemon, Daemon, and it's about a guy that controls the world from the grave. And you get to the, you've got cars chasing you that no drivers in them. You've got all this stuff, right? He's dictating terms because he can shut off your credit cards and put out an APB saying you're a child molester, while you're sitting there trying to buy some fast food. And of course, now you're public enemy number one. And it's all this manipulation stuff. But you get to the end of the book and it's this really sobering tale. And you get to the end and it says, oh, by the way, everything in this book that was used, the technology, everything that was mentioned is available today. Like,
whoa,
this was 7-8 years ago. I was reading this book, so talk about the capabilities now. So, when we're talking about an evolution at work, man, dude, this is like a have to, not a want to at this point.
Oh, 100%. This is another, I don't know if I shared this before. Have you seen this book?
No.
Very good. So the future is faster than you think, how converging technologies are transforming business, industries, and our lives. So Peter Diamandis and Stephen Kotler wrote that. They're talking about, how everyone's, thinking that the autonomous vehicles are the future when they're already ready. And those guys are all working on something else now. The autonomous vehicles are already done and dusted. They're ready to go. Just humans aren't ready, right? So, and it's a fascinating thing when you think about this from a culture point of view, whether it's a human culture and, this company culture concept, that like I always say to people, if I surveyed 1,000 people, how many people would jump in an autonomous vehicle right now and trust their lives in an autonomous vehicle?
Yeah. Good point.
Right? Probably.
Would you?
Probably not right now.
Why not?
Well, 2 reasons. One, I like to drive. So I'm always going to struggle with autonomous vehicles. There'll be benefits to autonomous vehicles, but because there's not enough autonomous vehicles on the road as yet. When there's more autonomous vehicles than there are other ones, I would certainly have a far greater trust level. It's not that I don't trust the autonomous vehicle. I don't trust the other drivers around the vehicle. And then I'm not in control, and I'm a control freak. So,
yeah, but I talked about this before, but I heard Musk talking about the capabilities of the processing power of a driverless car.
Yeah,
and it is a gajillion times faster processing than your brain. And because other people are goofballs on, you want to be able to be the fastest responder possible. And you can't you can't respond. I remember reading about a tennis or a poker, ping pong player.
Yep.
And ping pong is a really fast sport, right?
Yep.
And I think it's coming like 200 miles an hour or something. The ping pong ball is. And he got out on a tennis court to play a tennis pro. He's like, "Are you kidding me? Huge court. Big old racket. The ball moves about half the speed, right? Yeah, I've got this." And he couldn't hit the ball. I mean, it wasn't because he was not trained visually for the game. Ping pong is different. I can't remember. Yeah. I think in ping pong, you watch the ball or whatever, but in tennis, he said you watch the person's knees and legs and feet, and you learn to do that intuitively. Nobody says, hey, watch their legs and feet, but you anticipate the shot based on that. Whereas ping pong is all about the ball placement where it's coming. So he was completely, he didn't have the processing power to be able to respond, to that ace coming over the net at him. And I think, if you can hardwire that all into a system, I don't know. I may feel safer if the plane is landing the plane than if the pilot's landing the plane.
Yeah, it's interesting. But this is the whole point. So it's this conditioning influence, right? So right now, every Tesla that rolls off the line, I reckon, is already an autonomous vehicle. It's just not turned on, right? And so what my point being, I guess, is that we're not ready for autonomous vehicles, but autonomous vehicles are ready for us.
Sure. Yeah.
right? And it's like this technology that's ready for us in our culture and in our organization. It's no different. But what have automotive manufacturers been doing to prepare us for autonomous vehicles? The very first thing they introduced was, oh look, parking. It parks by itself and it just swings,
Yeah.
and assisted parking. And then they've got assisted braking so that the car will slow down automatically. And then they've got lane, making sure that it stays in its lane. So, and then Ford brought out their latest rig, and it's like the autonomous truck or whatever, like this autonomous something rather truck. And so as I explained this to my kids, I said, like, they're slowly but surely conditioning us to go, well, it parks itself, it stops by itself, it stays in the lane by itself. Like, so what they're doing is they're slowly preparing us for these autonomous vehicles that it's already ready for us. But we're not ready for them.
I mean, you've heard of these. I don't know what particular ones they are, but if a crash is imminent, they can either avoid a collision or they can slam on your brakes, right? So you just happen to look down, your coffee, spilled, or and you look away, and you're barreling down on an 18-wheeler, right?
Yeah.
From behind.
Yeah.
I kind of want my car to go, let's not hit that thing.
Yeah.
I don't want it to be dependent on me to be able to. Okay, so how do we wrap?
No, but here's the question that you're missing, though, is why are you focusing on your coffee and doing whatever instead of focusing on driving the car?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
But I guarantee you, 90% of drivers get distracted at some point. There's something.
And I get it. It was a sort of a facetious question in its own spirit of intent. This is why we would want autonomous vehicles, because we want to be able to have our coffee, be talking on the phone, doing all this stuff, because just sitting there driving down the highway it's not conceivably productive in our minds.
Okay, so how effectively are we using technology in companies, and particularly to benefit company culture? If we've got all of these smart things, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where does that merge come in? Where does those two get juxtaposed? Technology meets people meets culture.
Well, two parts that my brain, two thoughts come instantly. Well, one is digital transformation is happening whether you like it or not, right? And in most businesses, there may be some that maybe it won't have as much of impact, but in most businesses, if you're not finding ways to digitally transform your business, you're going to be left well behind.
Do you think that most employees believe new technology is geared around making their job easier, or new technology introduced by the company is geared around big brothering them?
That's an interesting question. Once again, it comes to the spirit of intent of the technology. I think like a lot of technology in organizations initially is possibly big brothering because it's not done properly. Like when everyone had to go work at home and when the pandemic first happened, everyone was looking for almost like, how do I spy on my people technology?
Right.
Like, which is like how sad, like you think about that from a state of affairs for your business where you can't trust your people, then you don't have the culture you have is one that lacks trust. All right. So for me, like that's a huge issue. If you have to find technology to spy on your people, you don't trust them, then therefore they don't feel trusted, then therefore they don't respond in ways where you could trust them. So you just create this whole downward cycle. There's so many bad thoughts in my brain right now about that concept. But so a lot of people would see technology as, once again, from that intent is big brothering. What technology should be doing, if you're bringing in, is how do we empower our people or power our people to become superheroes? And my thought on this, I've shared this with you before about this whole concept of, if you're trying to either big brother me, or if I think it's a Terminator or whatever, that is just a negative reason to bring in technology. If your technology is there to free or empower your people to make smarter decisions and to be able to do the work that humans must do, that's a great need for technology. If it helps us communicate better, because what's happened in the past, and I think this post-pandemic time that we're moving into is before technology, we used to have to adapt ourselves to technology. But what we're finding now, what I'm certainly seeing now, it'd be interesting for you, in organizations and the stuff that even that I'm using in my own business and Circle Leadership, is that technology is adapting itself to me. Technology is finding a way to follow human behavior rather than to trying to change human behavior to follow technology.
Right.
Right. So if you're, you know, from a culture point of view, if you can make sure that the technology you're bringing in is adapting itself to human behavior, then that is the best way to leverage technology in your organization. Then following it up by making sure that that technology is empowering or powering your people to be superhumans, to really unleash all the human qualities of creativity, curiosity, imagination, intuition that we can bring to the workplace and to serve our clients at the highest of levels, then absolutely. Now, if I go back to your restaurant point of view, where we're going to be subservient to machines, you see, I wasn't thinking of that when you were talking. What I was thinking about, that technology, whatever it is giving me real-time, fast information to provide better service.
Sure.
So am I subservient to the machine, or is the machine helping me become an even better customer service provider?
Yeah, I guess it's depending on how it's presented and what's the
Correct.
So,
and that's my point with technology. When you bring in the organization, it depends on the intent. If the intent is to micromanage our people and to spy on them and do whatever, then yeah, you're going to think you're subservient to the technology.
Right.
But if you see that the technology helps you provide better service, and you're really passionate about providing highest levels of service to the people that you choose to serve, then you should embrace that technology.
Yeah. So, by the way, I mentioned to my super smart, brilliant guy your analogy of Iron Man versus
Terminator.
Yeah, Terminator. And he goes, that's actually a really good analogy. So, way to go, Dave Clare. Score one for the Dave Clare.
Yay. It's true. And if people haven't sat on this, heard our conversation before, very quickly, the difference between the two. Obviously, Terminator is technology designed to overtake or overthrow people, to terminate people, whereas Iron Man is a human powered by technology. So where Terminator is trying to overpower humans, Iron Man is a human powered by technology. And that's what I look at, depending on how people perceive, is this technology coming in to terminate us, to get rid of my job? And that's why people fear technology, because in the culture in your organization, if it's not introduced properly from a cultural point of view, if you do not introduce technology properly, people will be in fear of technology, that it's going to replace me, or it's going to be better than me, smarter than me, whatever. But if we bring it in to help people understand, no, we want to take all that mundane stuff that we've been doing and use AI or automation or robots or whatever it is to free you up to do the work that humans must do, and empower you to be a superhero for our clients, because every one of our clients deserves each one of us to be a superhero for them.
Yep.
Then we want to turn every one of you into Iron Men, Iron Women. And that's why we should have technology in our business.
Okay. I told you I had to run early tonight.
Yeah.
What's your closing thought, Dave, on company culture?
Closing thought on company culture? I'm only pausing because there's so many in my head that I want to just pick one that's meaningful. But my closing thoughts on company culture, my thought is, if you're not addressing it now, you're already way too late, but you better start.
Yeah.
Because going forward, people are going to have greater choices in, their whole lives, and this work-life integration right now, distributed working, everything like that, gig economy, global economy. If culture wasn't already critical prior, it's going to be even more critical now.
Agreed.
I just cannot emphasize the importance of creating an amazing culture in your organization.
And the C-suite ought to be, the CEO for sure ought to be primarily focused on this as his agenda. It ought to be order of business number one, and it ought to comprise a large part of how they spend their time, what they do in meetings, how they talk about stuff. Because take care of the culture, culture will take care of the company, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if once you got all the frameworks in place, your job should be to lead that culture every day and make sure everyone else is leading that culture every day.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that should be one of your primary roles. It's to spend more time with the people than you do with anything else.
Yep. Okay, so you doing good, Dave? I haven't talked to you in a week. Good week?
Yeah, man, epic week. Awesome.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Great.
It's coming to the end of the financial year here in Australia, right? So our financial year ends June 30th.
Wow.
Yeah. So 2 weeks ago to the end of the financial year. So it's it's a crazy time for all Australian businesses right now.
Y'all do things all weird in Australia. I mean, what's up with this metric system thing? It just makes too much sense. So
we're not imperialists.
All right, brother. Hey, great being on with you. Love our visits.
We'll see you guys all next Tuesday, 6 a.m. WA time, and what is it, 5 p.m. in Dallas?
5:30 p.m. in Dallas. Oh no, it's
now
it is.
Yeah, 5 p.m. And are the Mavs still in the playoffs?
All right, got to go now. Sorry, it's a low blow.
You're breaking up.
It's a low blow, man. They went down in flames. So thank you for reminding me of that, opening that wound. Thanks for opening that wound.
Sorry about that.
I'm going to pull against CH or whatever that was now. Just the last Canadian hockey team.
The Montreal Canadiens, yeah. Go Habs, go. All right. Take care. Have a great one, man.
Peace. You too. Bye.
Bye.